Now that we know a little bit more about how to define variables, let's go back into the script editor and talk a little bit more about variables and how they're going to work. So in our last few videos, we introduced the concept of variables. We introduced the concept of how do we log messages. But we can do a bit more with variables. So when we declare a variable, we can set it equal to a value. But we don't have to. Let's go ahead and save that. We'll save this as variable project. So we don't have to actually save this as, or we don't have to declare a variable and then set some value. We could actually say empty variable. And we could set it to nothing. You know, and this is going to be totally fine. If we run this, the script editor is going to let us get by with that. Now, if we use logger log and we log a variable, that's going to be pretty evident what that does. And if we view our log, you'll see we have some value. However, if we log nothing, which is a little weird, it's a kind of an odd concept, you'll see we get this message undefined. And what that's saying is that we're not logging the string undefined. We're not logging text that says undefined. We're actually, this is just not defined yet. It's a little different than if we were to say undefined. Now, this will give us the same log result, but it's a different kind of thing. You know, even though this looks exactly the same, it's not quite the same. We're going to get into what undefined means later, but right now you can just kind of look at undefined like it's just not something there. Now, one thing that we can do is we can also reuse variables. So if after I log a few things, set a variable equal to some other value, and then log it, even though I'm doing the same statement, I'm executing the same statement on lines 5 and lines 9, when I run, you're going to see that it's going to result in different outputs. I have some value, then I have some other value. So you can see I can change what's in that variable. Now, what happens to what was in the variable before? It just goes away, disappears entirely. So we have variable, and then we have some other variable, but the original text, that original some value, is not there anymore. Now what I could do is use another variable. We could call it temp, and we could say that's equal to a variable. Then we could say some other value, set a variable to some other value. Then we could set a variable back to temp. And we could then log a variable again. So that value, it doesn't get wiped out across the board. A variable doesn't, you know, setting it to temp and then setting it back, it doesn't change what this is. If we look at our log, we can see that we retain that. When we set that to equal to, when we set our variable back, let's go ahead and move this out of the way. And you can see when we set the variable back to temp, temp holds that. So we start off with a variable equal to some value, then temp is equal to some value, then we set a variable to some other value, then we set the variable back to what it was originally, that temp. So that temp kind of just holds another value in place for us. So we are able to reuse variables and reset them, and you'll notice as we move through our programs, we will do that quite a bit, just kind of resetting values and moving things around and changing things. But once a variable is declared, you're free to use it however you like. You can put something into it, you can not put something into it, or you can reset it to another value. So you get a lot of flexibility with what you can do with variables. Thanks for watching.